Hi there, and welcome to the I Ching Cafe. My name is Belinda Dunstan, and it is our weekly I Ching forecast for the week commencing the 8th of July, 2024. Welcome. Thank you for being here with me. As always, before we get stuck into this week's forecast and what the I Ching is coming to bring us to shape our awareness and our focus, we always look back, okay? We reflect back on what we learned from last week's overview, and we had this beautiful kind of ongoing energy of Hexagram 58, joy, bringing further into the week, the monthly overview, right? And tapping us into communication, exchange, collaboration. How do we express and connect and bind people? 3 interesting changing lines, right? Lots of action. We also had Hexagram 41, decrease, connecting us to where we need to cut back, withdraw, or perhaps just observe where our energy, time, resources was diminished in the week, and making peace with investing our time, energy, and care into the things that are important for the future, and accepting that that little dip in energy, that dip in flow is good to help us do what we need to do. So think back to last week that you were working with communication, joy, expression, collaboration. What were the collabs that were important for the week? What were the insights around where you could be more expansive and connecting and sharing and teaching and sharing what you know with others? Where were those interesting conversations and connections with others coming to bring you some energy? And of course, where could we focus on that cutting back? Where did we find that the space was created to decrease our amount of activity and get stuck into what was really important, being hyper-focused? The decreased hexagram often brings us that opportunity to become like the laser beam, being hyper-focused on what's really important and put down all the noise that can sometimes distract us from that. So, if there was anything that came up for you last week that was interesting, related to those hexagrams and the changing lines, please do share. Sure, it was an action-packed week. All right, let's get into this week. What is the forecast for the week? What is the I Ching asking us to pay attention to? And it's important to remember that sometimes these hexagrams bring us event and stuff and very tangible physical experiences of the hexagram, all right? And sometimes what they do is they dial us into this facet of our business or our lives for us to work and strategically unpack what it is that we're working with and we're needing to do more of in this particular area. So sometimes, especially with the weeklies, it's not always about event comes, stuff happens to us, right? It can be about tuning us into where are we needing some growth, where can we focus our attention in unpacking the hexagram. And this hexagram this week is especially relevant for us to work through in this way. Okay, so without further ado, our first hexagram for this week, our main flow of change, our main focus of the energy of what we are working with and developing this week is hexagram 39, obstruction. This one seems to have been popping up quite a bit for us over the last few months. And so this week, this is what we are working with, right? Learning how to deal with challenges and obstacles in the road. You know very well, because we've had it recently, that this is the hexagram where there are boulders in the road, maybe definitely more than one. We have boulders in the road that come to obstruct us from what we want to do at the pace we want to do it. This is the hexagram of injury. Stephen Karsha calls it limping, okay, where we're not at full tilt. We've got a crutch under one arm and we're kind of like making our way, right, through these obstacles, but we're not like athletes running down the path. We are having some challenges that are slowing us down. And so with this hexagram, the emotion that often comes up with is frustration and irritation and feeling blocked, stopped, obstructed, exhausted, without resources, and feeling just stuck. Okay. So with this hexagram, every hexagram has a strategy that goes with it. This one is no different. And with this hexagram, the learning we go through in working with it as it comes up is accepting that we can't keep on bashing ourselves against this obstacle in the way we have always done it, okay? We have to get creative. We have to find the path of least resistance to overcoming the obstacle. If we go and we just bullheaded, just go and slam ourselves over and over and over against it, we land up with a very sore body. Okay, no one wins that way. Well, the rock wins, right? So what we have to do is we have to find creative ways of going around the problem, and that usually means inviting helpers, okay? So it's not about pursuing a lonely path of bashing through. It's about getting creative, finding new ways around it, enlisting helpers, getting our trusted circle, all right, to give us input, to give us manpower, to give us solutions so that we can find ways around the obstacles. This hexagram, okay, so you might find life happens to you this week, all right, and you have all these problems, all these rocks in the road, okay. And what we can do is we can then respond to it by working with this hexagram and seeing those obstacles for what they are and seeing the strategy for what it is. The other way of working with this hexagram, if you don't have that experience, or you can do it in parallel, is to look strategically in your life, in your business, okay, where is the obstacle? Okay, where is the rock that I currently face? What are the rocks that are in my path, all right? And what can happen is we go about life and we go about our business and we kind of just, we're like cows eating at the trough, and then we go through a process. Okay, unthinking in a way. What we can do is we can be strategic in the way that we think about, I want to get somewhere, okay, and there are rocks in the way, there are boulders, okay, there are obstacles. What are the obstacles that I face in my life right now? The top 3, okay, that cause me the most suffering. And what is their essence? What is the nature of the obstacle that they bring to me? What are some of the strategies, the creative flows, the different ways around those obstacles, where my helpers, advisors, mentors, manpower, person power, they help us to find a way of working together well with others to overcome the challenge. So we can work with both strategies, how we respond to the obstacles when we encounter them, and how we use the energy of this hexagram to strategically tune into the obstacles we face and make some decisions around how we are going to resolve that and then getting on with it, right? Okay, so that is hexagram 39. Old ways of just bashing against it using the same way, not going to help. Leverage your network, leverage your people, find resources, find ways around it, creatively solving the problem, okay? So now there is only one changing line this week in the second position, okay? And this changing line, unfortunately, says lots and lots of difficulties, okay? The obstacles, the rocks pile upon each other, not just one big boulder, but perhaps lots of varying sizes of challenges. They pile on. However, the obstacles, the challenges that come are not your fault, okay? So there are issues that have arisen either by somebody else or the circumstances. They're not your karmic process, right, or your fault or your responsibility to have created them. But what we do have is a responsibility to tackle them anyway. Okay, so wherever we find ourselves in our personal lives, our business, our teams, our work, irrespective of the fact that these issues are not our problem, we didn't make them, we have a responsibility to lean in and do the work, okay, and tackle them, okay. And doing that, serving the moment, all right, despite the challenges of it, serving the moment, giving it what it needs, brings really good flows of energy. So this week, don't look at, issues that come up that are not your fault and say, well, it's not mine. Goodbye, okay. They actually are issues that you are responsible to lean in and solve because you are there and there's something unique about what you are doing and what you can contribute that despite the fact that it's not yours, you have a responsibility to do something about it. And because it is not yours and you're doing something anyway and you're doing the heavy lifting of going in and sorting it, that good energy comes back to us all. So we have to just say sometimes it isn't about the fact of whose fault it is, but it needs to get resolved. End of story. Okay, that is changing line 2. So that leads to a second hexagram, a relating flow of energy. that guides us in the week. It's an outcome hexagram, okay, where the energy flows to. I like to think of it as that victory hexagram. What is that path to victory? What is that mechanism that we could use, all right, to move forward from obstacles to an outcome, all right? How do we be victorious in the situation? And it is hexagram 48, the well. Lovely hexagram, because we have at the bottom trigram is wind or wood, and the top one is water. So it's the bucket of the well coming through the water, pulling the water up. Okay, it creates a lovely image. The well is a man-made structure. Okay, so it's one of the few in the hexagrams. It's a man-made symbol. And it talks about the well at the center of a social structure. Okay, so the idea in ye olden times, okay, of the well being the center of a community, a tribe, the tribe being raised and built and structured around the spring or the well that's been tapped, and that life-giving essence of water which the whole community depends on. And all the different families, gather around and are structured around the well, centered in the center of the community. So the well represents, in a flow change, represents the structures we use to tap into the inexhaustible supply of resources, okay? Because if we build a well, okay, and we have a good structure, right? Well-lined. I don't know how to use not the word well to describe a well. Well-lined well, and we have a nice deep dig into the ground, into that spring water, and we tap into a beautiful underground river or underground source of beautiful fresh mountain water that can just draw up, right? Can bring resources up to the surface to support the whole tribe. So what is the structure, okay, that your week is drawing your attention to? I often think if this is a business-related issue for you or a team-related issue, it's a structure that binds everyone together, that allows you to tap into the well, right? If you have a business that's an online business, your well is your website or your app, whatever it is that gives access to people to what you deliver, right? And so it's that kind of idea of it's your business model, it's your methodology, it's your thing that connects to flow, right? And allows you to nourish and support the people who are dependent on you, the stakeholders in what you are doing. In our personal lives, the well can be a social structure, okay, a structure that binds us to something meaningful. It could be your church or your religion or a community that you're a part of, a network that you're plugged into. But it's a structure that binds people together and is a mechanism to create the flow. So we look at where is the structure that I need to work through and tap into that flow of energy. This hexagram often speaks to this idea of our social networks, okay? The network we're plugged into. It might be a physical network, but it can be also our human relationships, the network we are plugged into, and can be a wonderful way of getting us more connected to that network and finding solutions through the network, through the well that connects us to other people. Now, given that we started off with hexagram 39, obstruction, and we will have some issues we are dealing with this week around issues that are not our fault, but we have to fix them. The well is the way out. Okay, the well for me is the structure that allows us to move through this obstacle we face. All right, so what is the well? Okay, the well could be the structures you put in place to overcome the obstacles. Okay, it can be the methodology that your team is using. What do you need to put in place? All right, the structure that's missing that can help your team move through those obstacles. Where is the social structure, the network you need to tap into? Because we need helpers in hexagram 39. So perhaps our well, okay, all right, the thing that we are connected to can give us that structure. So it's a meaningful hexagram, as they all are, around reaching out to the structure that binds us to what we're trying to do, the structures that help us tap into the flow, all right, tap into the resources we need. And it is our relationships, our social order that binds a community together, right? Which might be our code of conduct, the way we behave, our value system, how we work together, our methodology. All those things are examples of what the well could be for you. And so tune into this week as you're working with the I Ching. Where is the well needing some work? Okay, where is the well not being used as much as it could? And how might our structure and our social structure, our network, aid us in moving through some of these challenges we have this week? Reach out to the helpers in that network, because that is the well that can bring us what we need. Good luck for the week, all right? Have a good time recognizing where you need to step up and resolve these difficulties that are not yours. Embrace the challenge. Good flows from it. So just persevere. Draw on that well. Draw on the things that bring meaning and sustenance to you. What taps you into your inexhaustible supply, your energy, your flow, your sense of being in the right place at the right time. Tap into your own well, your own energy, your own physical body, which is a well, all right? Tap into that and use that as a resource to overcome the challenges that are in front of you right now. Thank you so much. If this was meaningful to you, please like or share. Thumbs up is always helpful. And of course, if you are new to the channel, do go and subscribe, hit the bell or hit the follow button on the podcast if you'd like to keep on receiving our weekly and monthly I Ching forecasts into your app so we can stay tuned to the flows of change that we are all working through together. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon at our next weekly forecast.